Let's rewind, because this is no longer just a petty sibling feud or tabloid drama. What's unfolding now looks like a calculated, carefully mapped out legal strike, and it's chipping away at the very narrative Meghan has been building since that explosive Oprah interview. Back then, the story sounded simple. Meghan cast as the victim, bravely telling her truth. But Samantha's team is now challenging that picture, suggesting her so-called truth may have been nothing more than a polished performance complete with flattering lighting and emotional background music. And this time, they claim to have a strategy sharp enough to expose it. Remember Samantha's first defamation case? It was tossed out almost immediately.
The victim of those vicious attacks, Samantha Markle, joins me now to give her side of the story. And look, Samantha, we had Tom Bauer on earlier, who is obviously...
Judges ruled that Meghan's words were merely opinions, not hard facts that could be challenged in court. But that dismissal didn't close the case completely. Instead, legal insiders say it handed Samantha's lawyers a roadmap of exactly what went wrong. Almost like a cheat sheet for a stronger comeback. And that's exactly what happened. The new appeal doesn't waste time recycling old claims. It's pivoting to something far sharper. Intent. Samantha's team argues Meghan didn't simply share her truth. She crafted it with precision, fully aware it would destroy her half-sister's reputation. Think about that for a moment. They're no longer debating the surface of Meghan's words. They're attacking the motive behind them.
So she's trying to make out there that she has no form of relationship with you.
Well, that's been the rhetoric so far. And I think, I was never out there saying...
Now the fight isn't about what Meghan said. It's about what she knew when she said it. That's a brutal shift, because suddenly this isn't about hurt feelings or a misunderstanding. It's about whether Meghan deliberately used her platform to crush someone she knew couldn't fight back. And legally, that changes everything. This no longer looks like a messy family feud. It's being painted as a power play with serious legal teeth. Samantha's lawyers even claim they've uncovered private communications pointing to exactly that. Emails, texts, even recordings that suggest Meghan's team fully expected backlash against her sister. And according to those claims, it wasn't random, it was strategy. A carefully staged narrative meant to spotlight Meghan while throwing Samantha straight under the bus.
We thought, my brother and I thought, a pretty normal life. But it wasn't until the time of the wedding when the media started to get to us. In other words, we didn't seek out the media.
And that Netflix documentary, it's now the centerpiece of Samantha's case. Legal experts are even calling it a second wave of defamation. Unlike the Oprah interview, which was emotional and over in a single night, the Netflix series was filmed, polished, and perfected over months. That lengthy production timeline could be used to argue Meghan had every chance to rethink her words, but chose not to. And here's what makes it worse for Meghan. The series went global. This wasn't a fleeting moment. It was a 6-episode rollout, translated into dozens of languages, and streamed into more than 200 million homes. The damage to Samantha's reputation isn't just personal anymore, it's international, quantifiable, and stamped into streaming data. And Samantha's legal team, they're preparing to use that scale as evidence of just how deep the harm really runs.
In my opinion, this is what it seemed like. Seal off the hatches so nobody can talk. And almost instantly, it seemed as though dirt was being thrown upon us so that if somebody did speak to us, that...
Samantha's lawyers are treating that global reach like dynamite. They argue the Netflix series didn't just recycle old claims, it amplified them. It escalated the attack, using high-budget production tools like music, visuals, and clever framing to cast Samantha as the villain on a worldwide stage. And here's the danger for Meghan. If even a fraction of that argument sticks, her defense could collapse. Because once personal opinion shifts into provably false claims made with malicious intent, the law sees it in a whole new light. At that point, it's not free speech anymore. It's defamation. And Samantha's team knows exactly how to push it. Their appeal doesn't politely ask the court to review. It demands it. And from whispers inside the 11th Circuit, the judges are paying attention. This could be the most perilous moment Meghan Markle has ever faced, not in the press, but in the courtroom.
that weren't real in the media and always out there. So it's not like we were out there trying to. Yeah, it was very
And
weird.
what's so horrible about what she's done in this TV show is she's
This battle is moving into the courtroom, and this time Meghan won't control the cameras. The real shock isn't just the legal arguments, it's the evidence. Samantha's team is preparing to drop. Court insiders say they're sitting on mountains of documentation, not emotional testimony or vague claims, but hard proof. We're talking screenshots, timestamps, police reports, medical files, even psychiatric evaluations. And this isn't about simply painting Meghan as a villain. It's about stacking a case so strong that even the toughest, most skeptical judge will have to take notice. Sources close to Samantha's legal team claim the fallout from Meghan's interviews was extreme. Death threats flooded Samantha in the hundreds. Not just one or two, but an avalanche of threats so severe that law enforcement had to step in and take action.
particularly going after her wonderful half-sister, Samantha.
And suddenly you just have my mom, who's classy and quiet and there, and then you have the other side of my family that is just acting differently.
My half-sister, who I hadn't seen for...
And this wasn't just random online trolling. It escalated into doxing, stalking, and coordinated smear campaigns that stripped Samantha of any sense of normal life. Her lawyers claim they can trace the biggest waves of harassment directly to Meghan's public appearances, linking every spike to the timing of her media spotlight. That's the key detail, not simply that the harm happened, but exactly when it happened and what triggered it. Samantha's attorneys are calling it influencer harassment, the idea that a celebrity's enormous reach can unleash an army of anonymous attackers without ever giving direct orders. And in Samantha's case, the argument is chilling. Meghan knew this would happen, and she pushed forward anyway.
Samantha Markle joins me now to give her side of the story. And look, Samantha, we had Tom Bauer on earlier, who has obviously researched both sides of the story, and he's with you. He thinks Meghan is telling porcupines. But let's respond to what she...
By portraying her half-sister as toxic or unstable, Meghan would have known she was unleashing retaliation from loyal fans and online crusaders, and if a judge accepts that framing, the fallout could be enormous. Legal experts warn this case has the potential to redefine how defamation is handled in the age of social media. If proven, it could mean celebrities can no longer hide behind the excuse of just sharing my story. There would be real consequences when those stories spark measurable harm, especially for private individuals with no platform to defend themselves. So Meghan isn't just accused of saying cruel words, she's being accused of weaponizing her fame itself. And for Samantha, the damage isn't only reputational, it cuts far deeper.
Dirt was being thrown upon us so that if somebody did speak to us, that we would have no credibility. So it was an interesting phenomenon, and this vicious cycle of wanting to set the record straight, wondering what was going on with her, wanting to give her the benefit of the doubt, and still all the while feeling like
the damage isn't just reputational, it's psychological. Samantha's lawyers have lined up mental health experts prepared to testify that she suffered severe emotional trauma, PTSD, and ongoing anxiety directly tied to Meghan's statements and the storm that followed. They're submitting therapy transcripts, clinical diagnoses, and even medical prescriptions as hard evidence. And the goal is clear: to prove this wasn't a passing emotional reaction, it was a full-blown mental health crisis that altered the course of her life. But now, a new layer is emerging, one that's starting to send shockwaves through Meghan's inner circle.
Wow.
Firstly, wow, what a porcupine. When that happened, also at the same time, we had found out that with my dad's heart attack, the Queen and King Charles wanted to reach out, but we heard that my sister said no. Similarly with this, I just recently found
discovery. That's the stage Meghan's camp dreads most. If the appeals court lets this case move forward, she could be forced to hand over private communications, emails, text messages, even production notes from before, during, and after those headline-making interviews. That means correspondence with Netflix producers, Oprah's team, and her own PR advisors could all be dragged into the courtroom. And according to insiders, Samantha's attorneys are aggressively targeting every last piece of it. Their mission isn't only to prove Meghan's words were misleading, it's to prove she orchestrated the entire narrative from the start.
Speak. I wanted my kids to be raised with their grandparents because I didn't trust babysitters. When I was dealing with disability and having to work, I didn't know anyone in Los Angeles well enough that I felt safe with that. So I felt like I was doing the admirable
because you're in a
thing.
wheelchair, Sam, and you were going through.
The accusation is that Meghan knew her words would spark controversy, cast her family in a damaging light, and that she and her team embraced that fallout as fuel to build her brand. Suddenly, the defense of just telling my truth starts to collapse, especially if behind-the-scenes communications reveal her actively shaping the story for maximum impact. And here's what truly alarms Meghan's legal team. This fight isn't just about fending off one upset sibling anymore.
Was lied to, and my sister, in fact, was the one reportedly who told Ashley she couldn't go to the wedding. So I felt like she was manipulating my daughter, lying to her. And that's really sad because my daughter seemingly was holding a grudge and feeling like I was the reason she couldn't come to the wedding.
It's as if Meghan is now trying.
This battle isn't just about Meghan, it's about the survival of the entire Sussex brand. Because if this case makes it to trial and she loses, the damage won't stop at the courtroom doors. Hollywood executives, brand partners, and media producers are all watching closely, ready to rethink their ties. And Samantha's team knows it. They aren't aiming only for a courtroom victory. They're gunning to shut down the entire Sussex media machine in one decisive blow. What started as quiet courtroom chatter is now exploding into national headlines. In Meghan's defense team, they're staring at their worst nightmare because the appeals court isn't brushing Samantha's claims aside. It's listening.
And by the way, what you're saying is completely correct, Samantha, because I've spoken to lots of my own royal sources as well, and they were always very clear. They never told Meghan who to invite to her own wedding.
The court isn't just hearing Samantha's claims, it's dissecting them with surgical precision. Judges are reportedly asking whether Meghan's polished media training and her carefully crafted PR tactics undermine her defense of innocent storytelling. And that's where the danger explodes. Because this case isn't only about what Meghan said, it's about how rehearsed, refined, and intentional those words may have been. The looming turning point could rest on a single idea: weaponized storytelling.
Father is recovering from a stroke, literally about a 3-hour drive. I mean, could you believe that? She doesn't have a father.
Legal experts say Samantha's appeal paints Meghan as someone who wielded emotional storytelling not to heal or open up, but to manipulate perception and tear others down. Her own public statements are now being lined up beside private communications, and together they form a troubling picture. The argument is clear. Meghan's interviews and glossy documentaries weren't about truth at all. They were about optics, framing, and leverage. That framing isn't just being picked apart by lawyers, it's now under the microscope of court-appointed experts in both communication and psychology. Their job? To study Meghan's on-camera performances and decide whether her statements come across as genuine or carefully rehearsed. And here's the danger: if those experts conclude her words were scripted or engineered to cast Samantha in a damaging light, that finding alone could shatter her defense. Because in the eyes of the law, opinion doesn't get the same protection once it becomes part of a calculated, coordinated campaign. But the most explosive piece of Samantha's strategy may be what surfaced in legal discovery. Sources claim there are internal texts, emails, and planning documents exchanged between Meghan's team and Netflix producers that reveal clear forethought about how certain family members would be portrayed. These alleged discussions even include phrases like control fallout, steer narrative, and strategic distance from Samantha. If these documents are admitted into court, they could establish intent beyond any doubt. At that point, this stops being about personal drama. It turns into something far bigger. A case with royal implications that could shake the Sussex brand to its core. Samantha's team is now reportedly digging into an even riskier angle that the monarchy itself may have been aware of, or even quietly supportive of: some of Meghan's most controversial public remarks. If that connection is proven, it won't just be Meghan under fire. The royal institution itself could be painted as complicit in the defamation of private individuals. That possibility has already sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace. Insiders whisper that royal legal advisors are scrambling to assess how much exposure they might face. And if subpoenas begin flying, it won't just be Meghan in the hot seat, it could drag the palace straight into the courtroom spotlight. It's not just Meghan who could be exposed. It's the advisors, the press officers, maybe even members of the royal family who were texting her during that period. The threat of discovery spillover looms like a storm cloud ready to burst wide open. And while that danger grows in the courtroom, Meghan's standing in the entertainment world is starting to wobble. Industry insiders reveal that studios and streaming giants are quietly pulling back. Deals that once looked guaranteed are suddenly on pause. Thanks to morality clauses, companies can cut ties if a partner is guilty of wrongdoing or simply becomes too much of a liability. That means if this lawsuit delivers a defamation ruling, it could spark a domino effect of cancellations and contract terminations. And then there's public trust, another battlefield entirely. Meghan built her brand as a voice for the voiceless, but that image is now hanging by a thread. But if the court rules that Meghan used her platform to bully someone with less power, her carefully crafted image could collapse overnight. Samantha's attorneys are reportedly preparing to hammer this contrast in their closing arguments. The Duchess, who preached kindness, now cast as the public figure accused of inflicting emotional destruction. And the blow may not stop there. It could hit financially too. A successful defamation ruling wouldn't just mean a payout. It could unleash a wave of fresh lawsuits from other relatives or individuals who believe they were damaged by Meghan's past narratives. Legal analysts warn that once a single domino falls, the rest could topple in rapid succession. For Meghan, the courtroom is no longer just a legal battlefield. It's the stage where everything hangs in the balance.